Welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. This is the place where we help mission-driven messengers just like you learn how to build and monetize your personal brand. My name is Rory Vaden, and I'm the co-founder of Brand Builders Group, a Hall of Fame speaker, and New York Times bestselling author. And this show is to help experts learn how to become more wealthy and well-known. I know you're going to love it. Thanks for being here. Let's get started.
Welcome to the Influential Personal Brand Podcast. AJ Vaden here, and I am so excited to get to spend the next hour listening to the amazing accent of Dr. Helena Popovic. And she is actually joining us from Australia, which we were just catching up about. I had the amazing opportunity to live in Australia right as I was graduating college, and it's a very near and dear place to my heart. So regardless of what I'm talking about today, you're going to get to enjoy this amazing accent, not to mention amazing knowledge from Dr. Helena. And y'all, as I normally do, I kind of give you a couple of reasons of why this episode is important to stick around for. And I always find that it's important you know what you're about to get into so that you can commit for the hour. And if it's not for you, I'll tell you. But there are some episodes that are just for everyone. And today is one of those episodes, because we're going to be talking about something that you will have for the rest of your life. And you need to know how to take care of it, how to nurture it, and how to support it. And it's your brain, right? Like, we need our brains. And so we're going to be talking a lot about brain health today, because that is her area of expertise and specialty. So here's what we're going to be talking about and why you should stick around. Understanding the impact of brain health on your success. And that doesn't matter if it's personal or professional, but brain health matters for longevity, and a healthy longevity at that. We're going to talk about some importance in proactive measures that you can take to prevent cognitive decline. And then also some practical strategies, which is what I am most excited about, for enhancing mental performance. I actually selfishly shared with her, I'm going to talk to her about how to get rid of brain fog, aka mom brain. So if she can solve that problem for me today, it's going to be a major win. But that is why you need to stick around for this entire episode, because we're going to be covering all of that and so much more. But let me formally introduce you to Dr. Helena, and then we're going to get to the goods of this interview, which is actually why you're here. So Dr. Popovic, you have done so many things. You are a renowned doctor, speaker. You're an award-winning author specializing in brain health, positive aging, and I love that term, positive aging, but also with a heavy emphasis on dementia prevention, which is a big part of your story, and I'd love to hear more about that. But here's one of the things I think is really important, is that you're on a mission to empower people at any stage of life on how to boost brain function, right? Now, I don't imagine that you started out your professional career post-college in academia with that. How'd you get into this?
Well, it was a rather circuitous route. In 2010, so that makes it 15 years ago, shortly after my mother passed away with lung cancer, I was there with my father, and I happened to open the fridge and find a box of a medication called rivastigmine, which is sometimes prescribed for people with Alzheimer's disease. I found it in the butter compartment of the fridge, and I thought, I don't know anyone with Alzheimer's disease. So I asked Dad, who's this medication for? And he said, oh, your mum said it was good for my memory. So I stick a patch on every day. I don't think it does much good, but happy wife, good life. That was how I first discovered that my father had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, because I'd been living 1,000 miles away from my parents. So I only flew to live at home again to look after my mother after her diagnosis. And so I had assumed that Dad's confusion and depression, obviously, and withdrawal, they were all symptoms of grief. Because in an older person, grief, depression, dementia, very similar symptoms, and it's hard to tease apart. So I'd assumed it was grief. But when I tracked down my father's GP, doctor, he confirmed the diagnosis. And here's the thing, such was the stigma around dementia in my Serbian family of origin that my parents had not even told their only child, me, their devoted daughter, who also happened to be a doctor, that her father had Alzheimer's disease. And so, and every, when I found out about it, everybody said, oh, look, just go back to your life. There's nothing you can do to help him. Put him in a nursing home and don't waste your time, because there's nothing you can do to help. There is no cure. And yes, my medical training says the few medications that are around are not really doing anything, and there's nothing you can do. But I just didn't accept that, because there's also something else we're taught on day one of medical school, and that is half of what you learn in medical school will be out of date by the time you graduate. The problem is you won't know which half, because that's how
That's a scary
fast.
thought, isn't it?
Isn't it a scary thought? But it is. It's actually been, pushed me to keep learning, because there are so many things that are just so out of date that I learned. Okay, it was a while ago, but nonetheless. So anyway, I thought, no, not good enough. So I did a really deep dive, read all the papers I could from all corners of the globe about brain health and dementia. And I discovered something that changed my world. And that is that just because something doesn't come in a pill doesn't mean it isn't powerful. Sleep, stress management, food, exercise, music, art, social stimulation, time in nature. I could go on and on. All of these things are medicine for our mind as well as medicine for our body. And so I applied all these things to my father, and I was able to look after him, keep him at home for 10 years. He passed away peacefully in his sleep shortly before COVID. And people, when people saw, but how come he's not getting worse? Dementia is supposed to get worse. He still recognizes you. He's still independent. His short-term memory was very poor, but mainly he just needed supervision. Whereas people forget how to eat, forget how to talk, can no longer verbalize, can no longer dress themselves. None of that happened to Dad. And so people start asking me, like, what are you doing? Do you think it'll help me? And I said, absolutely. Well, all the evidence suggests that at any age or stage of life, we can and should be boosting our brain, because here's the thing, from the brain changes that can lead to Alzheimer's disease start 30 years before we get any symptoms. So you're never too young to start boosting your brain and thinking about brain health. But not only that, then it's going to help you be more productive, better thinking, more creative during your working life. And everything you do now will also go a long way to helping you prevent dementia as you age. So I'm on a mission.
I love that.
To send this message to everybody. Don't be complacent about your brain. Don't believe any doctor, neurologist, geriatrician who still say to you, there's nothing you can do. Get your affairs in order when you start to show signs of cognitive decline. Because, I've written 2 books now on all the things that you can do. And people, have written back and just gone, I've got my life back. I've got my brain back.
Okay, this is going to seem like an overly simplified question, but what is brain health, right? And I think that's like even just asking, like, what is brain health? Because I'm sitting here going, I read a ton of health books. I'm very into nutrition and sleep and kind of on a health journey of myself. And it's like, I could not tell you now. Yes, it's like, yes, be outside and keep your brain active and keep it, eat healthy. Sure. But I don't recall any time I've ever been to my doctor in the history of my 42 years on this planet, almost 42, of having a conversation about, let's talk about your brain health today, AJ. So what is brain health? And just kind of like walk us through, like, what are the simplest, most proactive daily things we can do to keep our brains healthy?
Okay, firstly, your doctor hasn't talked to you about it because it's not at the forefront of their mind. They're not really trained to think about it. A lot of this information is very new. We probably learned more about the brain in the last 2 decades, this century than we did in all the previous centuries combined. So it is a new area. Well, it doesn't feel new to me because I've been doing it for a couple of decades, but still a few decades is still a very new area. So that's why your doctor's not talking about it. And probably because he looks at you and goes, you're young, you don't have to worry about it yet, because people don't realize how early those changes start taking place. So that's why people don't bring it up. And also, they just don't want to know about it because it's so scary. Dementia is more feared than cancer. And in fact, not in your country, but in my country, dementia is the number 1 cause of death in Australian women, in UK women. I think it's maybe number 3 in this country, but yeah. Wow. So it is a big deal. What does brain health mean? Well, it actually means that everything we do, everything we eat, everything we experience actually leaves an imprint on our brain. And that can be a positive imprint or a negative imprint. And what I mean by that is you've probably heard of the term neuroplasticity. Our brain changes in response to each different activity it performs. And what that means is we can grow new brain cells, we can lose brain cells. You have an alcohol binge and, you've damaged quite a few brain cells. You go for an intense exercise session, a HIIT, high intensity session, you've built a few brain cells. So we can make new brain cells. We can make new connections between brain cells. You do some really intense learning, challenge yourself, learn something new. You actually make new connections between brain cells. We can establish whole new circuits. We can even change which cells perform which functions. And this has revolutionized things like stroke treatment. We used to think if somebody had a stroke and damaged part of their body, if they didn't get better after a few months of rehab, they probably never would. We now know that with a specific intense form of therapy known as CIT, it stands for constraint-induced therapy, cells from undamaged parts of the brain can be recruited to take over the lost functions. Right. And I'll give you an example of how they do that. It's relevant because you can extrapolate this to improve any brain function if you think you're not good at it. So basically, say you've got the left side was undamaged by the stroke and the right hand is paralyzed. So they're going to strap up the left side and say, you can't use it. And they're going to put a glass of water a few millimeters in front of the fingertips of the damaged hand and say, try and touch the glass. The person's going to go, I can't, it's paralyzed. We'll just focus and try. And because it's so close, they touch the glass. And as soon as they've touched the glass, they push it a little bit further away, they try again. And they practice this for several hours a day. But over the course of a few months, they will regain the use of that paralyzed limb. And here's the thing, even if your stroke was years ago, you can still regain function. Never too late. It doesn't seem to ever be too late. And when they scan the person's brain, what's happened is cells have been recruited from other parts of the brain and grow new nerve fibers. Isn't that wonderful? So don't ever think that you can't improve something, because in my experience, there's always something you can do to make, to improve a situation. Now, there is no short answer to what are all the different things we can do to boost our brain, because I've just said to you that everything we do has an impact on our brain. You want to bullet train to dementia, then drink to excess, smoke and vape, do no exercise, spend all day indoors, and just learn nothing new. I mean, that is a bullet train to dementia. So let's flip it around. I mean, in my latest book, I've got 80 different ways that you can boost your brain. I don't think we'll get through all of them today, but it's even hard to tease out which are the most important. But I'm going to start with probably one that may surprise you. Cultivate good relationships. Good relationships aren't just a feel-good thing. And I mean with family, with friends, with neighbors, with colleagues, clients, everyone you come in contact with, because good relationships are the number one thing that will one of the number one things that will boost your brain, but it is the number one thing that will keep you healthy, happy, and live the longest throughout your life.
So why do you think that is?
Because good relationships lower production of the hormone cortisol, which is our stress hormone, reduce inflammation, strengthen our immune system, make us feel safe, release a cocktail of feel-good chemicals. All of these things are essential for good brain function and good body function. You want a strong immune system. You don't want inflammation. These are two main drivers of chronic disease. If good relationships are an antidote to that, then they're going to go a long way to preventing those diseases.
So I have a question for you, because as you're talking about that, I can't get it out of my brain what you said earlier about the number one leading cause of death for Australian women, and you said another country as well. The UK is dementia. Why is that? Is that connected to a lack of strong relationships and community? Like, what?
We're not 100% sure. That is still a big area of research. Several reasons have been postulated. One is the estrogen hypothesis.
Mm.
If a woman has premature menopause, in other words, she has her uterus removed or ovaries removed, usually for good reason, not just willy-nilly, that significantly increases her risk of getting dementia because it's an abrupt cessation of estrogen production. So there really does seem to be an estrogen connection there. Other things have been postulated. When a woman sustains a head injury, she doesn't recover as well as a man. We're not sure why. Possibly because men tend to have stronger neck muscles. So maybe when she has a head injury, there's more rattling of the brain, more damaged connections there. Could be in the past, women were less educated, had less stimulating work, so they didn't get the same mental stimulation that men did.
Interesting.
Perhaps women are less physically active and apart from relationships, you must move for your brain. Forget I want to go to the gym to lose weight. Who cares? That's the least important reason to go to the gym.
But for brain health.
It's for brain health, and it's not it's every aspect of physical exercise. Sorry, I'm transitioning very quickly from relationships to exercise, but you have to move if you want to maintain your brain health.
Like how much movement?
Okay. Firstly, the 3 types: aerobic exercise, endurance training, strength training. Strong muscles equate to a strong mind, and balance as well. Good balance. So it appears that, the 150 minutes per week is probably enough, but if you can do a bit more, that's great. Doing high intensity interval training is really good, is better than just low level. But let me just say, I don't want to put people off. Any movement is better than no movement, even 5 minutes a day. So and the reason, okay, people go, but why is exercise so good for the brain? Yes, we get more blood flowing to the brain, more oxygen, more nutrients. But you've heard of the gut-brain connection?
Sure.
There's a muscle-brain connection. When we move our muscles, they produce a cocktail of chemicals called myokines. Scientists have tried to bottle these, but there's too many of them and they have too many complex functions. Myokines circulate in our blood to go to all our organs and keep our organs healthy in various ways. Particularly in relation to the brain, we produce a chemical when we exercise, whether it's weight training or whether it's sprinting or jogging or cycling or swimming or dancing. We produce a chemical in the brain called BDNF. It stands for brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And this neurotransmitter actually stimulates the growth of new brain cells and new connections between brain cells. And here in the States, they've actually done studies on school children where if they do exercise before their exams, before their harder subjects, they do better because our brain does perform at its best in that first hour after we engage in any sort of physical activity. So
I have a question for you then.
Yeah.
Knowing that we have this sitting epidemic behind laptops and behind screens and just very sedentary professional environments for the majority of the days, including in schools.
Yes.
Right? Specifically our elementary and middle schools, which is just devastatingly sad. What are the quick things to do if you're, at a desk all day?
Couple of things we can do. But number one, I want to just acknowledge that sitting is the new smoking. That people who sit for more than 11 hours a day, and that sounds ridiculous, but I have colleagues, people with desk jobs that drive an hour to work, sit at their desk 9 to 10 hours, drive an hour back. That's 11 hours. That person is at 40% increased risk of early death from heart disease, stroke, cancer, complications of diabetes, dementia. So it is a serious issue. And it's dose dependent. The longer you sit, the worse you are. Why is sitting so hazardous? Because whenever we sit, there's no electrical activity in our biggest muscles, which are our quads and our glutes. And we also produce, and that sort of means the fats and the sugars stagnate in our blood. But also we produce the opposite of myokines. We produce cytokines when we just sit. Cytokines are pro-inflammatory molecules, and it means we're in a low-level state of inflammation. So that's not good. So what can we do? Couple of things. Number one, unfortunately, even if you flog yourself at the gym for an hour a day, you're not undoing all the damage of prolonged sitting. Some, but not all. the simplest way is to just break up the sitting time. Every 20 to 30 minutes, just stand up for 2 minutes. You don't have to go skipping a rope, but that would be great if you did, running up downstairs, but just stand up every 20 to 30 minutes. And when I'm writing my books, I have a timer that goes off every half. It's just easier every half hour.
Yes.
And I have just a cheap little standing desk. So quickly move it across and just type for a little while standing because I don't want to lose my train of thought or whatever.
Sure.
But so you just interrupt that sitting time. And, all my lawyer friends break out in a cold sweat because every 6 minutes is a billable unit and they don't want to lose billable units. I said, but it's not dead time. You can talk on the phone, you can
That's
read,
right.
you can still type. So just break it up.
Okay. So I think that's a huge thing because like even on days like today, doing several different interviews back to back to back, and it's like I know that like during my quick breaks, it's like I have to go and stand because I can
must.
literally feel it,
Yes.
like kind of like stagnating.
Yes.
So what would you say?
And people are more tired when they sit all day than when they break it up.
Yeah.
And you just think prolonged sitting is one cause of brain fog. But go on, I interrupted.
And because I would love to talk more about this brain fog. So I'm curious to see, what do you think are some of the trends in workplace environments? Have you seen anywhere they are doing more standing desks, or like my big Christmas present this year was a standing desk and a walking pad, right? So like yesterday, I have to brag on myself because I broke my stepping record. I did 30,000 steps yesterday.
Wow.
Because it's like for 5 hours.
Yes.
I'm just it's slow speed, it's slow impact, but I'm just on calls all day. Might as well just step it out. But there's so many work environments where like you could do that, but yet we're not. Have you seen any trends in any countries or any companies where like they're really bringing this in, not just for the health, the personal health, which is vitally important. We got to own that as individuals. But to hear everything that you're saying, like, hey, it boosts creativity, it boosts productivity, like all the quote unquote corporate benefits that this has. Surely companies are taking notice.
Nowhere near enough. There was a trend maybe a decade, maybe 5-10 years ago. Yeah, people started to get standing desks and have meetings on the move. And meetings are so much more productive if you're standing, or if you can, have a rooftop garden or do it outdoors or in nature. So much more productive. But sadly, people sort of start and then it peters out, and it hasn't been kept up nearly enough.
Well, because you said something
I know some companies are doing it,
but not
enough.
But because you said something, and I brought this up before this started, this quote unquote mom brain or brain fog. And what I have noticed, at least for myself, I'd be curious to hear from like an actual doctor on this. It's like the longer that I'm just sitting doing the same thing, it's like the foggier my brain gets. Like, is that just me, or is that like a real thing?
That's definitely a real thing. You need to break up your focus. So again, if you want to sort of clear your head, especially, okay, I'm going to backtrack just a little bit. A major cause of brain fog for a lot of people is just not getting enough sleep. Most people need 7 to 9 hours. Most people are not getting 7 to 9 hours. I get it that the demands of life are great, but you're just not going to be firing on all cylinders if you don't get enough sleep. Sleep is when our brain detoxifies. Magic happens when we sleep in our brain. The spaces between our brain cells actually expand, and what's known as lymphatic fluid flushes out the toxins. And if you're not asleep for long enough, you don't get rid of the toxins, and those toxins then build up over time and create more and more brain fog.
So why aren't people getting enough sleep? I'm one of those few people where I sleep 9 hours.
Fantastic.
But my husband has convinced himself that he only needs 6 hours. And it's like, I think you're wrong, but I'm not a doctor.
Okay, 3% of the population have the short sleep gene, and they can get away with less. Whether Rory is one of those, I don't know. Most people overestimate that they have the short sleep gene. So I'd be wary about that.
Because he says he's like, I literally can't sleep longer.
Okay.
And so I guess for me, like, why aren't people sleeping? Like,
because they've got children and jobs to hold down, and
there's definitely the children part for sure.
Just because they put just modern living, so many demands, getting children to school, getting self to work, preparing meals, just getting everything done. I think people tell themselves that they've just got so
They
much on their plate.
deprioritize sleep to get the
Yes,
rest of life done.
basically it's deprioritizing sleep, but we have to. I mean, we make the worst decisions. We eat badly. When we wake up sleep deprived, we will have high levels of the hormone cortisol throughout the day. Cortisol, remember, the stress hormone. That means we feel stressed before anything has even happened. Sleep deprivation dampens the hormone leptin, which makes us feel full, and increases levels of the hormone ghrelin, which makes us hungry. And not only that, we're not hungry for Brussels sprouts. We're hungry for junk food, for sugar, for quick fixes. You know, we're more angry. We snap more. Just
All the things.
I can just tell you an example of something that happened in Australia. In Brisbane, there was a big event, a lot of police involved, and on the last day, a young police officer was asked to take a bag of guns back to the police station. And when he got to the police station, he realised he'd forgotten the guns at the train station. And there was this major, investigation. How on earth could a police officer do something so stupid? Simple answer. He'd done, I don't know how many days in a row.
Sleep-deprived.
And was sleep deprived. We do really dumb things when we're sleep deprived. So I think chronic sleep deprivation, contributes to brain fog, dehydration, and especially if you're sleep deprived, you need to drink more water. Again, it's because of a hormonal thing. I'm not going to
Also detoxification, right? Like the more water you drink, does that help just detoxify?
That too, but it's also, just dehydration. Your brain needs water.
The longer you're awake, you just need more.
Yes, exactly. And taking micro breaks, even just, every 40 minutes to an hour. Don't leave it much long. Don't leave it more than an hour. Take micro breaks. And what I mean by that is shift your focus from your desk, from your computer, preferably to nature. Go and find a garden, a go-to garden. If nothing else, just see if you can get a picture of nature. Looking at an urban environment isn't as rejuvenating, but going for a walk in nature nurtures us. That is another thing that heals our body, heals our brain. For many reasons. Number one, you've heard of the microbiome, which is the trillions of bacteria in our gut. There is also an aerobiome, trillions of bacteria in the air, in nature. When we inhale them, not just the bacteria, but also chemicals called phytoncides, which are produced by trees, they strengthen our immune system. They lower our blood pressure. They lower levels of the hormone cortisol. Nature will energize us if we're tired. Nature will calm us down if we're stressed. Bonus tip for you, if you're ever in hospital, ask for a room with a view of nature, because hospital patients that look out onto nature heal more quickly, need fewer painkillers, get out of hospital sooner.
Wow.
Prison, if you're ever in prison, ask for a cell with a view of
Let's
nature.
hope I am never in prison.
No, but just in case, prisoners whose cells look out onto nature, they get sick less often, they're better behaved, they get out of prison sooner. Phenomenal.
Okay, so I have to stop because it's like these are seemingly so simple that we ignore them.
Yes, that is the danger of this. That is the problem with this. It's like, yeah, I know I should eat better. I know I should exercise. I know I should get out into nature. By the way, just to complete that, 17 and a half minutes a day, 120 minutes a week. They've done studies in England to find how much nature you need to stay healthy. So 120 minutes a week. Combine it with exercise and you've killed two birds with one stone.
Why don't we do it? These are things, it's like, none of this is necessarily revolutionary. We all know it. We know that we need to sleep. We know we should eat healthy. We know we should drink water. Most of us know we should spend time outside. Most of us know we should be moving. We've been hearing this for decades now, that sitting does damage long term, and yet we're not doing it.
Not a strong enough why. Friedrich Nietzsche, he who has a powerful why can conquer any unknown how. I think it's just when people are not sold enough that this makes enough of a difference, and it makes a huge difference. But I think people don't realize that it makes that much difference. And it's like, oh, I just can't be bothered. It's sort of a negative perpetuating spiral. If you wake up tired and sleep deprived, you're less motivated, you don't have the energy to exercise, everything's too hard. So it kind of starts with that. Then exercise actually energizes. If you're sitting all day, that makes you even more tired, so you're even less motivated. Then, you have a sugary breakfast, like another big brain booster. I'm sorry, quit the Coke and sugary beverages. Every soft drink is a bullet to our brain. Unfortunately, fruit juices as well, because it's a massive hit of sugar in a very small amount of time.
Even if it's all natural, no sugar added.
Correct.
It's
so
still
much
sugar.
If you like fruit, eat it. Don't drink it. Because how many apples would you eat in one sitting?
One.
One. You
Not
can't
20.
Yeah. But in a little apple juice, minimum 3, 4 apples. That is
It's just too much.
Too much sugar. Now, why is sugar damaging to the brain? I'll spare you all the biochemistry. Suffice to say, sugar is sucrose, and it's made up of 2 smaller sugar molecules, fructose and glucose. The fructose molecule is the more damaging. When it hits your brain, it actually, to break that molecule down, it drains your brain cells of energy. Fructose does not give you energy. Glucose does, but too much of it is a bad thing too. But fructose actually drains brain cells of energy. It impedes communication between brain cells. Fructose messes with genes in 2 really important areas of our brain, the hippocampus, our learning and memory warehouse, and our hypothalamus, which regulates all our hormones. So you drink that massive dose of sugar and it's like machine gun fire to your brain. And yeah, you'll get that initial high for a short amount of time because you get that glucose, but then you get that massive crash and then you've got to start all over again.
Okay, so I have a personal question because I have 2 little boys who are ages 5 and 7. So all things kid related are just very top of mind for me 24/7. Knowing everything that you just said, why do all of these companies then create all of these things that you're just talking about and gear them to children?
Profit over people.
I mean, it's absurd.
It is absurd because it's a $1 trillion industry. Let me just give you one thing, just as an example. If you changed nothing in your life, but you decided you'd add 1 small can of soft drink, I don't know how many ounces. We have 330 mils. I don't know what you've got here.
8 ounces.
8 ounces. That's all. You just added that to your life. You changed nothing else. By the end of a year, you would be 6.5 to 7 kilograms heavier just from that 1 can of soft drink. You'd have a 22% increased risk of diabetes, and your risk of all chronic diseases will have skyrocketed, and you are eroding your brain function. Now, if you're you see, all the studies they do on soft drinks where they go, they don't do any harm. They do them on young, fit, super athletic men, and they tell them to sip that soft drink over an hour or 2. Nobody sips a soft drink over an hour or 2. And so they can fudge the results. So I'm really, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. However, money talks. Fast food companies, quit all the junk food out there because our body and brain was not designed to handle all these chemicals. We simply weren't. What's my best dietary advice? It doesn't matter if you're vegan, vegetarian, omnivore, or carnivore. It doesn't matter. As long as you eat food that's from the land, from the sea, from the sky, or from a tree. Not from a packet, not from a tin. If it comes in a box, I'd throw it in the bin. I listened to your...
That's so good.
I listened to your, or most of your podcasts, but Dr. Cody
Goldman,
where you said, I don't eat sugar. I get this all the time with my patients. I don't eat sugar. How did I get diabetes when I don't eat sugar? I do the same thing. Go through your pantry and do an audit.
It was frightening.
And it's terrifying.
It was frightening.
Everything savory has sugar in it, from mayonnaise to bread, crackers, frozen meals, teriyaki sauce, sweet chili sauce,
Everywhere.
salad dressings.
Everywhere.
Just everything.
Sugar and oils. Where's in everything? I could not
Cottage
believe
cheese.
my own eyes.
It
was in everything.
It's in everything. So sugar is in everything, and it's
hidden.
That's right. Today, by the time a
hidden.
child is 8 years old, they've already consumed more sugar than the average person had in their entire life a century ago. So birthdays happen once a year for a reason. So you eat sugar once a year.
That's right. That's going to be the new policy at my house. Sugar once a year.
I mean, no, I'm not. But I mean, there's plenty of natural sugar you can eat
Absolutely.
in your
I mean,
fruit.
you get a good ripe piece of fruit, and it's like it is a burst of sugar in
Burst
your
of sugar,
mouth.
especially if you've eliminated all the added sugar, you actually taste it more. When
And
I
that's what
eliminate
it is. Our taste buds have been
dull,
so, you know,
hammered.
yes, they've been so like tapered down by all this other stuff that we can't even taste the goodness of
Mm.
real whole food.
And here's the other problem. People don't realize just how harmful junk food is and how harmful soft drinks are. They got everything in moderation. No. We've lost touch with what's moderation.
Right, there is
Would you
more.
eat shoe polish in moderation just because it tasted good? So I put, would you
That's so
smoke in
good.
moderation?
Mm,
No, you wouldn't, because there is no safe level of cigarette consumption.
that is
There is
so
no
good.
safe level of soft drink consumption. I'm sorry, there just isn't. And there is really no safe level of junk food consumption. That doesn't mean you never eat cake or you never had biscuits, but it just means it's a special occasion thing.
Mm.
And guess what?
Not every day.
You will enjoy it more. When I was a child, Serbian sort of tradition, we had only a particular cake that you would eat at Christmas and at name day and at Easter. And boy, I so looked forward to it. And boy, I savored it. And, you know, I wouldn't have my whole piece today, so I'd have some more tomorrow and it would just last longer. People don't look forward to any food anymore because
every
they
day.
can have anything,
Yeah.
anytime, any day. You actually enjoy your food more when you have it less often and when you really savor it. We don't overeat because something tastes too good. We overeat because we're not paying attention to what we're eating, and we're overeating because it's not really satisfying. One thing I do with my patients too, that go, I could never give up X food. Let's say it's Krispy Kreme donuts, but I'm just using that as an example. I go, okay, next time please bring in a Krispy Kreme donut and we're going to eat it together. And they go, what? Bring in a Krispy Kreme donut at the next visit. So they do. And I go, right, you're going to eat this donut like you've never, ever, ever eaten it before. Smell it. Don't even eat it. Just look at it first. Smell it. Take in the scent. Just, what sort of flavors are you smelling it? Take a bite. Really try and absorb all the flavors. So eat it really mindfully. After 3 bites, it's like, I've had enough. I can't eat anymore. It's too sweet. But you never paid attention until now. And once you get rid of all the artificial, when I say artificially sweetened, I don't mean using artificial sweeteners, but that too is not good for a different reason. But once you acclimatize your taste buds to real food, cashews and macadamia nuts are sweet. Milk is sweet. It's like, I don't often drink raw milk, but occasionally I'll just have
It's thick and creamy.
it's really
and,
sweet. And don't get me started on the plant-based milks. Nothing wrong with almond milk, except that they add sugar, sunflower oil, artificial colorings, flavorings. I had a girlfriend come and stay with me once who only drank soy milk. Nothing wrong with soy milk. I went to the supermarket. My husband was just over it because I was half an hour reading all the labels, trying to find a soy milk that I could morally buy for her and not feel I was poisoning her. I finally found one because all I had is soybeans and water. So I was so proud of myself. She said, I never tried this brand before. Tried it, nearly spat it out. Said, this is the worst soy milk I've ever tasted. I said, that's because it's only soybeans and water. Yours probably has added sugar. Most of them have some kind of oils. Anyway, all I'm saying is we don't realize how damaging the food is because safety in numbers. If everybody's doing it, it should be fine. But you're too young. But doctors used to advertise their favorite cigarettes. We get it wrong. And we've got to admit that, when we got it wrong with cigarettes, we've got it wrong with soft drinks and juices, and we've got it wrong with junk food. It is really harmful.
You, my friend, need to be plastered on billboards all across the world saying this because it is the truth. And honestly, what we're not hearing right now is truth.
That's right.
Right? We're hearing a whole bunch of stuff. I know here in the U.S., you probably don't follow as much of the politics, but it was fascinating just a few weeks ago to hear the American Heart Association on the stand saying that they disagreed with a lot of the new Make America Healthy Again, bans and practices. And it was the American Heart Association going, well, we just don't agree. And we're just sitting there going, like watching this court appeal going, what do you not agree
No, I was going to
with?
say, what do they not agree with?
That all of the artificial foods have a negative impact on heart health.
But
they do.
They do.
And it was just fascinating to listen to these representatives going, well, there's just not enough proof for us to make an official stand.
There is.
There is. But at the end of the day, it's like, who are they funded by?
Who are they funded by exactly?
And so I was going to tell you this quick thing because ever since I have radically become aware of this in my own life and throughout all the packaged things and read labels like a crazy person, takes me 2 hours to go grocery shopping every single time.
Yes.
Which is why you just stay, and we call it perimeter shopping.
Yes.
So we never go down the aisles.
No.
It's just perimeter shopping. But I give my kids an opportunity every single time they go to the store with me. And here's their opportunity. I'll buy anything that you want as long as it has less than 4 ingredients and less than 4 grams of sugar.
Wonderful.
And if you can find it, bring it to me and I will buy it for you.
Great.
And you know what? They're always like, no, that doesn't exist. There is nothing. And I'm like, yet there is. It's called a banana, an orange, an apple. It's called broccoli. It's been fascinating for my kids because then anytime that we're out, they'll just ask, does this have 4 grams of sugar? And so it's like
so good.
But it is
because a child shouldn't be having more than 4 grams of sugar a day.
And it's like if it has
Added
more than
sugar.
4 ingredients, and if I cannot pronounce them, we cannot buy them. Right? We cannot.
Fantastic.
I've become, Rory teases me. He goes, baby, you're just one step away from full-blown hippie right now because I bought my own almond milk maker.
Wow.
Right? The Almond Cow, highly recommend it. No affiliate fees, just really like it. And you add almonds and water.
Fantastic.
And then voila, overnight, you wake up and you have fresh almond milk. But it is one of those things where it's like, there's so many tools at our disposal to make it just as easy. Like, I'm not saying it's just as easy of buying a carton from the store, but kind of it is. I buy a bag
It's a
of
mindset.
almonds, I throw it in, I add the water, I turn it on, and I walk away. But it's a mindset, it's a choice. And I'm only so passionate about this because a year ago, I woke up to all the lies that I had been fed and was believing, which is, I'm healthy. And I wasn't. Like I was facing chronic illness with gallstones and my gallbladder disease, and I wasn't healthy. But I thought I was.
Yes.
And that was the problem.
And that is the problem.
That's the problem. I thought I was.
People aren't in enough pain.
Uh-huh.
That's the problem. And people don't realize how good they can feel. People don't realize just how much more sharply they could think, how much better they could concentrate. You know, the norm is to feel tired and run down every day. And so people have forgotten just how healthy it's possible to be.
Sickness has been normalized.
Yes, it has.
Right? Foggy brain, mom brain. I remember, after children, as I kept saying, like, oh man, mom brain is real. And I didn't click to me as like, no, what's real is sleep deprivation.
Yes.
Right? That is real. And because of that, I have quote unquote mom brain, foggy brain.
A couple of things I want to address on that. Number one, a mum brain, the brain changes a bit because now your priority is your children. So if you would observe yourself, your brain is actually sharper in relation to anything to do with your children in terms of hearing.
Oh, absolutely.
Your hearing is actually sharper in terms of recognizing in the distance that your child is crying. So there are certain
It's true.
I haven't been a mother, so I don't know all the details, but I do know that the brain changes in a positive way in order for you to protect your children. But what we notice is the negative, because that's just how we're programmed. We notice more that we're more tired. We tend to multitask more, which drains the brain of energy, which increases the brain fog as well. Another quick way to brain fog is to multitask all the time. Now, there are times when you have to multitask, and there are 2 different types of multitasking, by the way. There is multitasking where one thing is automatic, like you can walk and talk. That's multitasking. But you don't have to go, I have to put one foot in front of the other. So there is that type of multitasking is fine, but it's when you've got highly cerebral, mentally demanding tasks, the brain is not able to focus.
That's
The
good.
brain is only able to focus on one thing at a time. So if you're multitasking, you're very rapidly switching your attention from one thing to the next, and then back to the first thing. So that means, if you're talking to somebody on the phone, but also reading an email at the same time, then you're going to lose information.
One way or the
you're going
other.
to
Yeah.
lose information from that email. You're not going to pick up everything that the person's saying. You're more likely to make mistakes. You're more likely to feel stressed, and you're more likely to feel tired after that conversation. And they've actually done studies where they've compared people, and they've said, you've got to get these 5 tasks done. You in this room, multitask. You in this room must only do one thing at a time. And they time them, and then they see who makes more mistakes, and they just sort of question them afterwards. Now, the people who multitask think that they've done better. 100% of the time, the monotaskers do it faster, do it better, make fewer mistakes.
And I love what you said. It's not multitasking. It's your brain can't multifocus.
That's right. We can multitask. We can't multifocus.
That's so good. All right. So, Dr. Helena, I could spend the rest of the day having this conversation with you, because this is the part that fascinates me. And I think it was like the moment that I hit 40, something clicked in me, and it's like, hey, are you preparing your body to live another 40 years? And I don't know what it was. It clicked in me.
I stop at 40.
Right? Or another 60, 70 years. But there was something that clicked, and I have been on this journey of like, no, I won't be able to control all the factors in my life. I won't be able to control it if I get hit by a car this afternoon. I won't be able to control so many things. But what I put in my mouth and what I do for myself are things that I can influence every single day, right? I can influence when I go to bed. I can influence keeping my brain active. I can influence being out in nature. I can influence standing up, right? And that's why I thought this was such a worthwhile conversation to share. It's because everything you shared today are things that we can do, right? They don't cost money, right? These are things that we can do. And so first of all, I just thought this was amazing, and such it was a breath of fresh air to be reminded, right? We can do things proactively to protect our minds, to, prevent cognitive decline, to stay healthy. And so I want to encourage everyone. This is not the only thing that Dr. Helena talks about. She's got 2 amazing books. She's got all kinds of information on her blog. And so if you go to her website, Dr. Helena Popovic, Popovic, Popovic.com. We'll also put that in the show notes, but drhelenapopovic.com. You can access her blog. You can learn about her books. You can learn about all of her work and her studies and her research, not to mention all of her speaking engagements all around the world. And so highly encourage you to go check her out, learn more about the things that you can do to stay sharp and stay healthy, right? All right. Last 2 questions before I release you. What is your morning routine to have a happy, healthy brain?
Okay. I wake up. The first thing I do is exercise, whether it's aerobic exercise or strength training, which we didn't talk about. So I'll just quickly mention that the stronger your hand grip strength, the stronger your mind. Get your hand grip strength tested, because it tends to reflect your overall body strength. And whenever we work out, build muscles, we are actually building brain. So from our mid-30s onwards, we lose about 5% of our muscles every decade. That means mid-30s to mid-70s, we could lose 20%, 1/5 of our muscles. People go, I don't care. I don't want to be muscular. It's not about your muscles. It's about your brain. And also losing muscle means we want more frail, more likely to have falls, all of that. And also, I just have to get these few things in. Maintain good balance. People are having poorer and poorer balance with time, because we're less physically active, because we spend so much time sitting, because we're losing muscle mass. We should be able to stand on one leg for 60 seconds with our eyes closed. Try it.
Okay.
So that one. And that's because balance is coordinated by a part of the brain called the cerebellum, which also regulates our thoughts and emotions. And people who have poor mental health tend to have poor balance. You improve balance, you improve their mental health. So that's a really fascinating thing. That's another whole other story. So I go to the gym, but while I'm driving to the gym, I practice gratitude. Because one topic we didn't cover, which is also really important, is that feeling positive emotions boosts our brain and our body. That's a whole other topic. Why? Because when we feel a positive emotion, that strengthens our immune system. They've actually measured studies that they've done it on actors where they spend a whole day working with depressing scripts, and then they actually take blood samples. They've lowered their white cell count, which is part of their immune system. And when they test the function of their white cells, they're more sluggish, responding to bacteria and viruses. On the other hand, when you have actors working with uplifting, happy scripts, their immune system stays strong. There's no change. So I practice, and and people go, oh yeah, and your one of your other interviewees, Jason, only a couple of weeks ago, said, oh, positive thinking doesn't work. I'm not suggesting you force yourself to be positive if you're not. Find back doors to improving your mood if you're feeling flat. Gratitude is a fabulous one. I start every day with reflecting on what I feel grateful for.
I love that.
Look, it could be shocking things going on in our lives, but there's always something we can be grateful for. I always think about this at an airport when people get irate, impatient, why do you have to check my luggage? And I'm thinking, the fact that you are at an airport, able to catch a plane, you are part of the privileged few in this world. Do you know what I mean? Not of all the people. If you can catch a plane, be grateful that you are in that minority of the world's population that can afford to travel.
Amen. I have a good friend who's a pilot, and he always gave me this perspective. He said, it's always so much better to be on the ground wishing you were in the air than in the air wishing you were on the ground. So every single time that I get a delay, I'm like, I'm so grateful that
Yes.
I'm on the ground right now.
Yes, that's
and it's
beautiful.
right? Just different perspectives,
Yeah.
right? And it's like we all have that choice. I love that. I love the art of practicing gratitude because, well, there's a whole lot to be grateful for, and it's easy as human beings to focus on all the things to be ungrateful for.
That's right. And this is also an incredible study found that people who maintained a positive attitude to aging, that is, they focused on what they gained rather than lost. Everyone is saying, oh, I've lost my friends, I've lost my fitness, I've lost my, my looks, whatever. Those who focus on continuing to set meaningful goals and things, they're still looking forward, to what life has to offer, on average, and they've excluded the effect of smoking and alcohol and lack of exercise and all those other things that affect aging and lifespan. So if you rule out all those other things, just having a positive attitude to aging prolongs life by 7.5 years. Wonderful. It means we don't have to worry about all those whiners in our life. They'll be dead long before you and me. So anyway, starting, practicing gratitude is really, really powerful. So then when I get to the gym, I have my exercise and I haven't eaten yet. I practice time-restricted eating because number one, it's been found to be good to the brain. I think it's more natural. When cavemen woke up, they didn't have Uber Eats. They didn't have breakfast cereal. They didn't have food ready. They had to go out and hunt for food.
Right.
So that's my analogy. I go and exercise because it's my equivalent of hunting for food. Then I'll come home and I do a cooked breakfast, assuming, I'm not running around somewhere. But, you're asking my morning routine. Then I'll do a cooked breakfast, eggs, avocado, mushrooms, spinach. That's one of my favorites, just eggs anyway. And then I'll start my, whatever I have to do, whether it's writing or preparing a presentation.
I love that. I mean, and I think that's good. It's like it's incorporating so many of the things you said into that quick morning routine. And I love learning people's morning routines because I learned so much all the time. All right, last question.
Yes.
What does influential mean to you?
It's who we are. We can't help but be influential. What it means is, to me, that self-care is not selfish because it can't be selfish because it enables us to give more. And being influential is about giving the best of you to the people you love and the causes that you most believe in.
I love that. And I love that you said that a couple of times today. Self-care is not selfish. And it's like that whole airplane analogy, right? Put your mask on first, right? You've got to be in a position to help others, which means you've got to take care of yourself. Dr. Helena, thank you so much. So many good tips, many good reminders. And I'm going to make Rory listen to this as soon as it goes
Can
live.
I just say one more? Just one more thing. what we tell ourselves about our sleep is also important. I'll tell you something. They did a study. This is important for Rory.
This is a tip just for Rory.
Just for Rory.
Okay.
They did a study where, okay, if you get 4 hours sleep, you are not going to be doing well. 6 hours, most people don't do nearly as well as if they get 7, 8, or 9. However, they've also done a study of our beliefs about ourselves. So this is Ellen Langer, if anyone wants to look it up. So they gave people 4 hours sleep, but they told one group, you've had 4 hours sleep, and they told the other group, you've had 8 hours sleep, because they sped up the clocks in one, slowed down, whatever. And then they gave them tests of mental functioning. Those who had been told they had 8 hours sleep but only had 4 hours sleep did way better than those that had 4 hours and were told they had 4 hours. And the reverse was true. Then they reversed it. They gave everyone 8 hours. They told one group they had 8 hours. They told the other group, you've only had 4 hours. Those that had 8 hours sleep but were told they only had 4 hours were more tired, didn't perform as well throughout the day. So what we tell ourselves is also really important. So, if Rory really believes that he only needs that much sleep, I don't know how long he's going to be able to get away with it, because we've also found that if consistently, not just for a few years while you've got toddlers, but if for decades of your life you get less than 6 hours sleep, 30% increased risk of dementia.
I'm taking this clip and I'm going to put it on repeat for my husband of why he needs more sleep. But I agree with you. It's like our brain believes what we tell it most often, right? And what it hears most often. So we better be telling it the things that make a difference.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. Stick around. The recap episode will be coming up soon. And we'll see you next time on The Influential Personal Brand.